Trump is not the guy who comes to Washington and transforms the system, because he's not capable of that. He's not interested in that. Washington is a very specific town, okay? So like the legislative process is highly complex. He doesn't understand it, doesn't seek to. He's not going to be the guy who runs on these 9 policies and then affects them once elected, gets them through the Congress, gets them through the agencies. He can't. That's not his role. It's very frustrating, actually, if you're from D.C. like me, to watch it. You're like, wow, what a second, get the energy department under control. Not going to happen. There's 3 million executive branch employees versus Trump, okay? Yeah. Trump's role is...
Is that right? That's not right. There's 3 billion?
3 million executive... I think there are 3 million executive branch employees. That may include the military, by the way.
Well,
so it's not quite right. But I'm just saying, like, the permanent class in D.C., and I live right in the center of them, they hate Trump. He's a threat to them. But why do they hate him? They hate him not because he's a right-winger. He's hardly a right-winger, actually. They hate him because he's the guy who says the obvious things. So, like, we went to Helsinki last summer and interviewed him during the Putin thing. And this crystallized for me in this conversation I had with him off camera. I said to him, I'm going to ask you about NATO. And he goes, why do we have NATO? And as someone who's like a Cold War kid, I was like, well, I like NATO. I'm thinking to myself, and he goes, the Soviet Union, fell in 1991. Wasn't the point of NATO to keep them from invading Western Europe? But they don't exist anymore. Why do we still have them? And I'm searching for a good answer, and I couldn't find one. So Trump repeats this in public, and everyone's like, well, shut up. What are you working for, Putin? And I thought, this is what Trump does. He comes in his kind of autistic way and asks the obvious question at the core of whatever the issue is, that is the one question everyone's been avoiding because they don't have the answer to it.
Yeah.
So, like, well, why are we signing a trade agreement and letting the other signatories ignore the terms? Why don't we have a border? I don't know. These are like not complex questions. They're very obvious questions. But because they are unanswered and unanswerable in some cases, they expose sort of the mediocrity of our ruling class. Like, they actually don't know what they're doing, is the truth. Donald Trump, who I've known for 20 years and always sort of liked, because, like, why wouldn't you? I think he's funny as hell.
Did you ever think he was racist or any of those
racist?
things?
No.
Like, put aside this.
If he were to get up and say, the problem is that this one racial group is screwing everybody else, and in response, we need to crush them. We need to attack them in public and then make it much harder for them to get jobs, government contracts, get into school. That would be racism.
That's racist, yeah.
Oh, wait, that's what our ruling class has been doing for 35 years. So, you really want to have a conversation about racism? Racism is attacking people on the basis of their immutable characteristics, which is like how our government operates. It's totally wrong. So, yes, there's a lot of racism. Is Trump an offender? Probably, who isn't? But the actual structural racism that hurts people and rewards others on the basis of their skin color, something I thought we got rid of 50 years ago, that is not being perpetuated by Trump. It's being perpetuated and defended and celebrated by his critics. Don't lecture me or anyone else about racism if you're pushing that crap.
Every day, I look at a story from CNN or Politico and forget BuzzFeed and all those other, like, forget the really bad ones, Vox, and it's like everything you guys are doing, every headline, the way every Republican has a picture that they look awful in the picture, Democrats look great. Like, every little thing, it's like they're just smashing us with it.
They've just turned it up to 11. And I grew up in a media family. I mean, my dad was anchor here in LA of ABC. And so I have always lived in this world, and I always thought the media are liberal, but I was totally wrong about that. They're not ideologues, actually. They're party people. That's what I totally missed.
Yeah.
They are loyal to the party. They feel powerless except as part of a group. That is the main distinction between left and right in this country. And so whatever the Democratic Party's imperatives are, they will act on them. If the Democratic Party invaded Canada tomorrow, you would see, I'm serious, they'd be like, these Canadians, they live among us, they're, what I mean, they're a fifth column, like they would actually, it doesn't matter what the party does, they will defend it. Once you understand that, then it all makes sense. They feel threatened. That's the truth. And you and people like you are the main threat to them. It's not me, actually. I'm on a competing medium, but in the same medium. They know that their power is ebbing. And when you feel like you're losing control, that's when you try to assert control. Yeah. That's when the most ludicrous propaganda comes, when you feel like, oh my gosh, they're not listening to me. Right, I have to yell.
But that's the funny part is I tweet this all the time. It's like, if these guys had just been like pretty bad,
Yeah.
I think it would have been tolerable. People would have, because it had been happening for so long, people kind of wouldn't have noticed. And maybe they could have got a little worse and we would have been okay with it. But it's like they've just completely bottomed out. And
well, this is one of the criticisms of Trump that has a lot of truth in it. When people are like, well, he's a destroyer. He destroys everything he touches. You know, probably an overstatement, but he does. You know, you get close, you sit and stare at Trump all day, and you're going to burn out your retinas. Okay, you are. And that's one of the things I try not to do. I don't do a show about Trump. I didn't write a book about Trump.
Yeah.
I'm not against Trump. I think Trump is useful and a truth teller in some ways, but the people who obsess about Trump are destroyed. And that would include his opponents, maybe especially his opponents.